All right, we'll get started. So first, make sure you have a notebook or something to write on and a pen, because there'll be some reflective pieces. I think all of you went to the confidence part 1. Is that true? Head shake if you have. Yeah. Jocelyn, I think you have as well, maybe. If not, if you have, you already got an email from me when we did the first part of the workshop that had the workbook. So the workbook in the first part, I think, was nice as a supplement to talk about sort of what we were going to do and something you can go back to. For this second part, there's a lot of extra resources in the workbook that we're not going to go through today, but if you want to on your own time, it's a nice place to get a little deeper into some of the topics. So I just added to the chat the link for the workbook, or where you can get the workbook if you'd like. So this is the She Believes Build Your Confidence Part 2. And this section, we're going to talk about building your confidence through self-care. So the first workshop we talked about were all about different strategies and tips that you can use to build confidence, just like you would build any sort of skill. And we focused a lot on how it was important to practice those different tips to see what worked for you so that you can have more control, particularly in unfamiliar situations. So today we're going to talk about what self-care is and how self-care is also related to confidence. So the first thing I want to do is think about, what does it look like to practice self-care? And to do that, I'd like you all to think about the question on the screen, which is, what do you think of when you hear the phrase self-care? And if you have an answer that pops in mind, can you just put it up in the group chat? And there are no wrong answers, so feel free to put whatever comes to your mind first. So what do you think of when you hear the phrase self-care? Great, thanks Elle for getting us started. Eating right and getting lots of sleep. Awesome. Any others out there? Relaxing, definitely Jocelyn. Taking care of yourself any way you can. Awesome, Kaylee. Kaylee, any specifics in particular that relate to taking care of yourself? I know Elle added a few about eating right, sleeping. Jocelyn talked about relaxing.
I always go on walks because it like really clears your mind. And so I always take my dogs on a walk. So that really helps.
Yeah, awesome. That's actually an example I'd written down too. So it's spending time with my dog and exercising, and sometimes putting those two together. Those really help me as well. So those are things I think about. Think about taking time every day to talk to my family. And sometimes I find it relaxing to do some cooking, but only sometimes. Other times it can be stressful. So, all right, cool. Thanks for those examples. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna just watch a small clip of a video. This is Jennifer Fisher, who is the Chief Wellbeing Officer at Deloitte. And she is in a fireside chat with Jill Ellis here, discussing what it means for them, this term self-care. So we're gonna look at this next.
And so I think my own personal definition of self-care, while bubble baths are luxurious and, you know, going to the spa or eating cupcakes or whatever the kind of trendy definition of self-care is that's out there, all of those things are great and a way to enjoy life. But I think for me, self-care is really about making sure that it's not a reprieve. Self-care is not where I go when I'm so completely burnt out and exhausted that I have no other option. Self-care is about daily choices that I make, and some of them are really hard, like not going out with my friends because I know that I have a big presentation to do the next day or the next week, or to know that I've been on the road and I need to kind of slow down and say no to things, kind of do less, to make sure that I'm getting enough sleep, to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, making sure that the relationships in my life aren't toxic, right? And, aren't bringing in negative energy or negative things. And so I think, while, taking bubble baths and all of that is great, that's a way to enjoy life. That to me is not self-care. That's actually part of the enjoyment of life, and it shouldn't be a reprieve that's where I go when I have no other choice, or that I'm so completely exhausted that my body is just saying, okay, this is it. You're down for the count.
Well, you have to take care of yourself, and in that, beyond that, you guys also have to manage a group of people. Yeah. And so how do you get the best? How do you motivate people? How do you guys get the best out of the people that you're responsible to then?
I think as a leader, it's important to model the behavior and to be open and authentic about what it is that you're doing for your own self-care, because that gives the people that follow you or the people that work with you their permission to do the same. And so I'm very open and authentic about it. And, sometimes I fail miserably, and I'm open and authentic about that too, and so I'm very diligent about my sleep. But, I will be honest, I flew in at 11 o'clock last night, and I'm leaving tonight, and I'm not getting home until 11 o'clock tonight. So, yeah. So, I don't always get it exactly right, but I'm open and honest about that too, because we're humans and none of us are perfect. But I think, being open and authentic about what matters to you. I mean, it's kind of funny. I'm so diligent about my sleep that, if I'm traveling or I'm with my team and we're out to dinner, they'll be like, Jen, it's like 8:30. We need to wrap it up so you can go to bed, because quite frankly, they know what it's like to be around a Jen that's not well rested. And I don't think they like it very much. So they want to make sure that I get my sleep in it, but it empowers them to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're, you stand in front of people and part of leadership is trying to inspire, I definitely think you have to make sure you have the energy to give. I mean, I think being a leader, it is a selfless job at times. And I think that's, to Jen's point, it's making sure that you have the energy and the resources to give, and sometimes faking that. I fake it a lot. Sometimes, I've been up till 3 a.m. and you have to get up and you have to be energized for training, and it's just finding that way of making sure that you put that group first and put their needs first. And especially in coaching, they don't want to see someone stressed out and frazzled. They want to see someone that's relaxed and say, we've got a plan. This is our plan, and it's not it's not emotional. And so I do think sleep is a huge part of that, but I don't get a lot of it. But I do think
we'll talk about that later.
It's managing those pieces for sure.
Okay. All right. So just while I'm transitioning back to headphones, take a second to think about one or two things that jumped out at you from that video clip. What did you hear them say?
I heard that going to the spa and going and eating a good meal or something is just the good things in life, but taking care of yourself is going to bed at the right time, or saying don't bring toxic relationships into your life.
Yeah, awesome, Kaylee. So there's a difference, right, between the stuff we really enjoy, that's definitely good and things that we want in our life, but taking care of ourselves means more than that. Yeah. Awesome. What else? Aiden, what did you hear?
They were talking a lot about how making sure that themselves they're okay, and their mental health, and that they're making the right decisions of what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And how that impacted others, right? I think her story about how her team tells her what time it is at night and then it's time to go, because they can tell how much it impacts her and how she interacts with them when she has taken care of herself or not, when she's gotten her sleep or not, is a really big thing, right? And also the modeling piece, right? When you're a leader, you guys are all leaders on your teams or in different communities, in school, in your friend groups. And by taking care of yourself and having others see that, you give them sort of the empowerment to do that themselves, right? You get to model what it looks like to practice self-care. Cool. Anything else? Brooke, anything you want to add? No? Jocelyn? Elle? All right. So my next question for you is to think about a time when you chose to prioritize your own self-care over another obligation or opportunity. And it may take a second to think about that. And then when you think about it, just jot a couple notes so that you can share. And I want you to think about what was gained or lost because you made that decision. All right. Anyone up for sharing first? Putting your neck out there and giving it a go?
I can.
Awesome.
Something that actually happens to me like quite frequently is if I'll have a game like early or like semi-early the next morning and say like my friends are gonna like all go hang out and I'll say like no so I can get a good night rest for like the next morning.
That's a great example. Thanks for sharing. Any thoughts on what's gained or what's lost because you make those decisions?
Well, what's gained is that like I'm ready for like when I'm at the game, like I'm not super tired and I'm like ready to give like 110% like to my team. And like that's kind of like my job too as like a player and as a member of the team, like is to show up like ready to go. But then also like I didn't get to hang out with my friends, but I think that's okay because I'm putting what's important to me like and I'm showing up for my team, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate it. Anyone else want to share?
Mine's similar to Elle's, and so it was after we came home from Cincinnati, and it was really late, and we got home at like 1:30 in the morning, I think, and I made plans Monday to hang out with friends after school, but I was like, no, I can't because I need to get my homework done, and then I need to catch up on sleep because like that bus was so loud, and that plane, and there was no way I was getting sleep on it, so.
Yeah, what a great example. And kudos to you, right, for noticing in the moment, like, yeah, my body and my mental state, like I need to take care of some things, right, so that I'm ready to do the things that are important to me. Any comments on what was gained or lost because of that?
Well, I gained my sleep back, which I had lost that night. But I like missed out on hanging with my friends. But it was okay because we hung out the next day, so I still got to do both, which was really fun.
Yeah, awesome. So you had a backup plan, right? Or you made alternative plans so that you could still do both. Cool. Thank you, Kaylee, and thank you, Elle, for sharing. All right, anyone else have a burning desire to share, or can we move on? Thumbs up if you're good to move on. All right, everyone's still with us, I think. Okay, here we go. So one of the other components of self-care is self-improvement. And so Elle and Kaylee, you both spoke to this as you talked about making a decision that meant you had to take care of yourself as opposed to maybe doing something else that was enjoyable or that you wanted to do. And one example, this picture of this woman, anyone know who that is? That's Tierna Davidson. So she was the youngest player on the USA's 2019 World Cup team. And she won a national championship with Stanford in 2017. And then she became the first round draft pick and went to the Chicago Red Stars. And in 2018, she was playing full matches for the national team up until she had an ankle injury. And when she had to return from form, like into playing form, right, starting form, she spent a lot of time focusing on the ways that she could improve her game so that she could be a consistent part of the national team and take soccer on as a professional career. And one thing that she spoke to, which is the quote that you can see on your screen, is, "I don't focus on being the youngest player. I strive to be better each day and accept criticism of my game so I can continue to grow, regardless of my age." So thinking about the things that she can control so she can focus on her own self-improvement. And this is part of her holistic self-care. So one thing to think about is think about a time when you did something to improve yourself. Okay, so what's something you've done, let's say in the last year, to improve yourself? And then related to that, when you think of an example, how did you feel before, during, and after? So when I was thinking about this question, one example that came to mind is, as a coach, I've made a decision to take a coaching course in the past to help improve myself as a coach. And I think making that decision going in beforehand, I knew it was good for me, that I would learn a lot and grow, but I also had a lot of anxiety because I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, how I would do, who else was going to be there, what the content was. I remember during it, I felt still some of that anxiety and I was a little nervous, but also I was like learning a lot. So I felt really engaged. It was hard, but also enjoyable in that hard sort of way. And then afterwards, I remember feeling really accomplished. Just really glad I had made that decision to do it, even though I wasn't totally sure about it in the beginning. So that's just an example that I could think of. Do any of you have an example you'd like to share?
I would say probably after when we had after our Florida choice and we had that 1 month break. And so before I was related to how I had to work out every 2 days to stay in shape. And so before I was like, dang, I really just want to take this month off, relax, hang out with my friends, do all this stuff. But then during the workouts, when I do them, I'd be like, okay, this is what's right for me. I know I don't want to do this right now, but it'll be good for me in the long run. And then after, I felt really good that I did it, and I was proud of myself because I kept working on it.
Awesome. Thanks, Kaylee. Anyone else?
Something that always comes to my mind is when we set our ISP goals, because that really focuses on something that we want to improve and something that we think we're not the best at. And so when we set those and we work on them, I think you feel good about it because you're I'm improving on what I need to get better at, and it helps you.
Yeah. Awesome. And I think that's a really relatable example for a lot of people, right? Nice. Anyone else? Jocelyn?
Just maybe doing these Zooms, before I start, before when we first started, when we had school off or whatever, and I was just oh, well, I mean, what if these Zooms are boring or whatever? What if I don't learn anything from them? And then during, while we're doing them, I was oh, I'm actually learning a lot. And then we're still doing the Zooms, but I'm oh, I'm really gonna benefit from this because on the field, I'll be thinking of all the things we learned, and yeah, it'll benefit me in the long run.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Jocelyn. All right, anyone else want to share before we move on? Okay. So in relation to practicing self-care and thinking about self-improvement as part of self-care, there's a lot of different components. So we want to think about how do we manage self-care as part of everything else that we do. And one of the resources in your workbook has a workshop where two individuals, the well-being specialist, Jamie Cameron, and then another individual, Alana Hoskin, they're presenting on different tips for managing self-care. And we're not going to watch that today, but if you want, it's attached to your workbook, and it's something that might be worth 30-40 minutes of your time if you'd like. And the 4 tips that they really focus on are managing your energy, fueling your body, moving your body, and renewing your body. And we're going to spend some time just on number 1 and number 4 today. So when we think about managing your energy, it's helpful to think about things in our life that really give us energy and take away from that energy. So I think in the clip we watched, it talked about negative energy. Another way to say that is something that takes away from the energy that you have. So if you can just think for a second about what's one thing for you that really gives you energy. And we'll just quickly run through all of you so you can share, so we can get those ideas out there. So my one thing that comes to mind first is getting outside. That always gives me more energy in the day. Kaylee, how about you?
I guess in the morning, if I don't get out of bed right away, I will be so tired the whole day. So my thing is I have to get up in the morning right away, and then I always stretch, and that like gets my muscles woken up, and so then I wake up. So that's what I do.
Awesome. Aiden?
Every day around lunchtime, me and my sister go on bike rides to stay focused and to get our work done.
Cool. Thank you. Elle?
My main thing is just like exercising every day because then it gets me like awake and ready.
Yeah, perfect. Jocelyn?
Mine is probably to like have like a routine.
Cool. And Brooke?
Mine would be like kind of waking up too, and then I like shower right away. I get out of bed and go to the shower right away.
Yeah, awesome. So a couple of you, Brooke and Kaylee, started to talk about how do you prioritize that activity, right? How do you make sure that it's part of your day? So Jocelyn, you talked about having a schedule. How do you make sure a schedule is part of your day?
Like the schedule is like basically my whole day. Like in the morning I wake up, get ready, and then I do workout before I start my school, and then after that I do another workout, and then I get some free time, and then yeah, so
So
the
you
schedule
know,
basically is my whole day.
yeah, so you know in advance like what your day is going to look like,
Mhm.
so that you have a schedule. Awesome. Aiden, it sounds like you have a certain time every day that you go out for that bike ride with your sister, right? So it's actively part of what you do. So as you think about those things, you want to make sure the things that give you energy are really structured in, and are planned into your days, and you make them a priority. So one thing that can happen for us though is even though something's a priority, there might be roadblocks to get in the way. So for example, mine is I like to be outside every day, and I try to make sure I have that in my schedule. But some days, particularly in Minnesota, it's not very fun to be outside, right? And it's really nasty, and the weather's bad. And on other days, I'm just super busy and I have lots of meetings, so I don't make it out. So one thing to think about is what are some of the difficulties that come up for you in making sure that energy piece gets into your day? Do you have any roadblocks to your energy activity?
Maybe just like all of our Zoom meetings, like in school, you have to like plan around all that and like make sure you get the thing that like energize your body in there.
Yeah, that's a huge one right now. And I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't even think about it, but it makes a lot of sense in the context of this, right? Right before I had a Zoom earlier with some other coaches, and right before this Zoom, I knew I wanted to spend some time prepping, but I made myself go stand outside for 5 minutes because I knew if I just went straight through, I wouldn't have the energy for all of you that I needed, right? So great example, Elle. Anyone else? Keely?
I guess like this morning, I don't know like if it was really bad where all you guys live, but I live in Lakeville, and so it was raining really bad, and then there was this like huge thunder, like my house shook, and I woke up, and so I like was just laying in bed for an hour because I couldn't fall back asleep, but I didn't want to get up because it was like 5 a.m. And so I like didn't stretch right away, which then I like felt tired for a while, but then I got outside and got moving, so I'm good now.
Thanks for sharing that example. That's another big one, right? Sometimes our routines get thrown off and we have to find another way to jumpstart them, right? So you can get back into the energy pieces that really help you. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the fourth one, which is renew your body. So fuel your body and move your body, I think, are related to a lot of topics that we discuss a lot as soccer players, right? Good nutrition and hydration, different ways to stay active, especially now that we're all remote from each other. So different technical activities you can do, physical activities you can do. And there's a lot of ideas for those sort of things actually on the players' website. So I know some of you have been attending those Zooms and trying out the different YouTube videos, and your coaches have been really awesome about organizing a lot of that content. But just note that those are also part of the self-care process, okay? So we're gonna jump to number 4, which is around managing, renewing your body. And one big piece of that is sleep, right? So when you sleep, your body does a lot of the important work to help integrate the learning from the day, take the nutrition and the hydration that you put into your body and use it appropriately so that it can repair and it can remember the things that you studied in school, and it can get you ready for the next day as well. Okay, so sleep's a big part of it, and I know it's a really hard thing for lots of people, including me. So what we want to do is take a quick moment to think back on how we're doing on our sleep throughout this past week. And I know it's a strange week, right? Because we're in this sort of social distancing phase, and maybe it's different when you're going to school, but let's use the last few weeks or the last week because it's probably easiest to remember what's most recent. So what I'd like you to do is take a look at this chart, and you can just jot down on your notebook. Think about the amount of sleep you've gotten in the last 5 days. So today is Tuesday, so think about last Monday, and then instead of Tuesday and Wednesday, we're gonna call them Saturday and Sunday. So we're gonna work backwards. So we're gonna go Monday, Sunday, Saturday, Friday, and Thursday. If you have your total for the last 5 days, what you wanna do is add all those hours up together, and then you're gonna divide them by 5 to get the average sleep you had in the last work week, let's say. All right, everyone get a number or close to a number? Okay, so you're gonna add up your 5 sleep times and then divide it by 5. And that'll give the average number of hours you had of sleep each night. So what we know is that at your ages, 8+ hours of sleep is really important for all of the repair and integration and memory pieces to happen. And for some of you who are a little younger, even more than 8 hours is good. Okay, at the very minimum, we should be getting 7 hours of sleep a night. And I hope that since we're now spending a lot of time at home, it's a little bit easier for us to get to bed earlier, and maybe even wake up a little bit earlier because we don't have the same transit time to school. So if your number is lower than 7, really want to start thinking about how do you get yourself at least 7+ hours of sleep. Okay, and even if you're in the 8-hour range, can you make it closer to 9, particularly if you're a little bit younger? All right. One of the things to think about as a group to help us strategize is, I went a little bit too fast. Okay, is what ideas can we all share with each other that help us prioritize our rest and find ways to average 7 hours a day? So like one strategy that I've had to do more as I've gotten older, and I don't love doing it, but I have to do it, is I think about, okay, what time tomorrow do I need to get up? And if I'm gonna get 8 hours of sleep, if I work my way backwards, what time do I have to go to bed in order to get 8 hours? And then I use that as my goal bedtime for that night. And in the little clip of the video, I'm definitely not perfect, and a lot of times I fail, but I think it helps me get closer to getting the amount of sleep that I need every night than if I didn't think that way. So that's one strategy that I use. Do any of you have strategies that help you making sure you get enough rest each night?
Something that I do is I always like to wake up by like at least 9 so that I can get ready and like I can get ready on my schoolwork too. And so I always just try to go to bed. I kind of do what you do, but I try to like set at what time like should I be going to bed so I can get like a good amount of sleep.
Awesome, thanks, Elle. Anyone else?
On the like clock app on your phone, there's like a bedtime thing, and so I have that turned on for like a certain time at night, so then at that time at night, it like shuts your phone off and it won't let you get notifications. And then it like sets an alarm for the time you set you want to wake up, and then it tells you how much sleep you're going to get when you like set the numbers. So I use that, and that's really nice.
That's really awesome. So it helps minimize distractions that keep you up and also gives you sort of a goal time to get to bed.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Thanks, Kaylee. Anybody else? And if you don't have a strategy, are there any things you run into, roadblocks you run into, or distractions that often keep you up later than you want to be at night?
Well, like I have a TV in my room, so I'll watch TV before I go to bed, but then I'll keep watching TV and I won't realize the time, and then I look at the clock and it's like 12:30, so.
Yeah, that's really hard, right? I've been really into watching Grey's Anatomy lately, and it's always like one more episode, and it's really hard to turn off. So what could be a strategy to help us manage that as TV watchers?
I have like this sleep timer, so I like fall asleep to my TV, and so I put it on for 30 minutes and it just turns off by itself.
Nice. Okay, so you have your TV, I can watch for 30 minutes and then it's going to shut off. That's awesome. And maybe if we don't have that fancy app, right, we can also set a timer for ourselves, right, to make sure it shuts off at that time as well. Cool. Those are great strategies. So just keep these things in the back of your head, right? I'm going to go backwards for a minute. So these 4 different pieces related to managing self-care, okay? Your energy, your fuel, your movement, and then renewal. The last thing I want to share with us as a tool is the self-care wheel, okay? And this is something that Stephanie Davis, she's the Chief Ethics and Compliance Officer of Volkswagen, who's a partner with US Soccer. This is something that she uses, and she's a female executive in a really large organization, in a company that is mostly male dominated, right? So she's a major leader, she plays a major leadership role, but most of the people that she works with are men. And as part of her self-care routine, she thinks about the holistic ways that she needs to take care of herself so that she can be a really vocal presence, even amongst a lot of male colleagues, which can sometimes be overwhelming, right? Because women, when you're in the minority, it tends to be difficult to, or take more energy to be heard, right, in rooms. So this is something she is aware of and tries to combat daily. And part of the way she does this is by using the self-care wheel. So she identifies 6 types of needs for herself. And it's physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual, personal, and professional. So one way to use this wheel is to think about what's one act in each of these categories that you could commit to right now. So go ahead, give each one a shot and think about what's one act you could commit to in each of those 6 categories. All right. Everyone able to think of a couple things, at least for 3 or 4 of the slices of the pie? Are there any questions about what each of these sections are? So what I'd like to invite you to do is we'll just go around and just share maybe 2 of the slices. So 2 of the acts that you wrote down. And I can start. So one of the ones I wrote down was professional. So one act I can do every day is to do something proactive related to my work. So either read an article or a book, make sure I write a section of the paper that I'm writing, or learn a new soccer activity. So one of those 3 things. And then psychological, for me, I said take a moment every day to focus on what the controllables are. So I think with a lot of things going on in the world, sometimes I get stuck thinking about the news and everything else. And so one thing that I can do is early in the day, think about, okay, what is it that I can control today, and use that to help recenter. Anyone else?
Okay. For emotional, I said, this might sound crazy, but I said have a good cry, because every time I like get super stressed, I just like cry for like 10 minutes. Like I literally schedule time to go cry, and I feel so much better afterwards, because it's like, it feels like all that weight is like lifted off your shoulders. And
Yeah.
then physical,
Kaylee, I'm going to interrupt you. You're not crazy. That's awesome. And I actually wrote down acknowledge my feelings, because sometimes we think we just got to shut them away, and it's really helpful to acknowledge what they are, right? And one way to do that is to have a good cry. So awesome. Way to be brave and put that in there. What was your second one?
my physical on the opposite side would be to like how I just got over like my hamstring injury. I had to really like focus on not trying to go too hard in practices, and like icing it and resting it and getting my body back to where it should be.
Awesome. So being patient and smart about your return to play. Good. Someone else? Jocelyn, what about you?
Maybe for like my physical would be like maybe like go for like a walk in the morning when it's just nice and cool outside, just to, yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Do you have another one you want to share?
My emotional one was actually have a good cry too. I do it all the time.
Awesome. Good. Brooke?
For physical, I have like workout and running, because like our team is like competing against each other right now. So we are like doing 20 miles in a week. So that, and for emotional, sometimes I watch like sad movies, because I can't just like cry. I don't know why, but like some like, yeah, watch a sad movie and yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Brooke. Aiden?
For my physical one, I said like work out or do one or two things a day, like go for a walk or a bike ride. And then for my emotional, I said to talk to people who will listen. So
Yeah, it's a huge one. Thank you, Aiden. Elle, bring us home.
For my personal one, I said I'm gonna do something with my family every day, whether that's like work out with them or like play a game or something like that. And then for the professional, I did like for my school, and so I said I'll try to get my homework done every day.
Awesome. Really cool. Lots of diverse examples, right? And then also some ones that overlap. And I think for me, it's really helpful to hear just sort of the ranges of strategies you all have and things that you're thinking of. And the more I've looked at this self-care wheel, I've been thinking about just printing it out and putting it up on the wall so I see it in the morning, because it's actually a really nice reminder of some really simple things I can do every day that sort of hit all different parts of my life, right? So I may try that this week, and if you want to too and check in, that'd be pretty cool too. All right, so we're gonna wrap up. And I think key points from the last workshop and this workshop are these things. One is building confidence takes intentional practice. So it's not just something you're born with that you have. It's something you actually have to work on over and over, and it's different for every individual. And so the strategies we talked about are things that, just like skills in soccer or your fitness in soccer, they're things that you want to work on over and over again consistently. The second piece from today is self-care can be a tool to help you improve your performance. So when we think about the confidence to do well in the things you want to do or to step up and take risks, part of being ready to do that is making sure you've taken care of you. And so the strategies we talked about today are different things that you can do to make sure you're in a good place to challenge yourself in moments where you need to exercise great confidence. All right. So the last piece that I want to leave you with is this 3-2-1 reflection. which I think is a really helpful thing before you put your notebook away and run off to the rest of your afternoon, which is what I'm going to do next, out to the woods. So write down briefly 3 takeaways from today. So the 3 things that you want to make sure you remember. 2 questions or areas you want to know more about. So maybe you're like, I'm really curious to learn more about the Fuel Your Body piece. Maybe I should watch part of that webinar, or maybe I go watch a Zoom about the nutrition. And then the last thing is 1 action, 1 thing that you're going to do tomorrow. Okay, so I know you just wrote 6 things that you can do in your daily life. It can be one of those, it could be something different, but 1 action that you're going to do tomorrow. And I'm just going to ask you to share it all with us before we head out. All right. We're going to come back together here. And I know some of you are still writing, but I want to make sure I'm mindful of your time. So did everyone have a chance to write down 1 action? Show of hands if you did. Cool. All right, we're just gonna go around the room real quick and everyone's gonna share quickly. Ready? Elle, you're up first.
Okay, I said at least one of the days this week, I'll try to do all of these at some point.
All the things on your wheel?
Mhm.
Cool. Jocelyn?
I said I was going to print out the wheel and try to do them in a day, or at least try to do 1 a day.
Awesome. Aiden?
I said for this week I was gonna finish my book because reading really calms me down, and yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Aiden. Kaylee?
I'm gonna really work on getting at least more than 8 hours of sleep because I usually am right at that 8 hours, so I'm gonna try and get more.
Perfect. Awesome, Kaylee. Brooke?
I have stick to my schedule that I have.
Great. Thanks, Brooke. And I had put the wheel up as well. So Jocelyn, you and I are in the same camp together. All right. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm going to send up a post workshop survey just to get your thoughts, because we'll probably offer this one more time to your peers. And then the last thing I wanted to ask you is, one thought I had was that in a week or 2, just to send you a check-in to say, how's it going? Have you used any of these strategies? Are they working or not? Would that be something you're open to receiving? You can thumbs up or thumbs down or whatnot. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I will try. My intent will be to send you something in a couple weeks just to check in to see how this is going. Okay. Awesome. Thanks so much. Go enjoy the day outside, reading books, doing whatever you love to do. And we'll see you all soon. Thanks for joining.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.